So today I decided to take a little leap of faith and, well, actually I'm recording on the phone because we have no internet access. Apparently something happened with Spectrum. Not the best service. Anyway, bottom line is this. I have noticed a conversation online about the bears and the man. And I struggle to call it a conversation because the one thing that I have noticed about this whole situation is that nobody's talking to anybody else. Everybody's just screaming and yelling, ranting and raving. Men are upset because women are treating them like bears and they don't understand the bear concept and blah, blah, blah. And one of the things that I have noticed across the many decades that I have been alive is that the easiest way to get somebody to concentrate or to actually pay attention to what you're saying is if you actually give them an example or give them a situation that applies to them in order for them to understand how you're feeling. So today I'm going to attempt to do that for some people. Now this video is actually for the men and for women that actually want to have the conversation and not just have a screaming match and blame men or whatever. I know many men who happen to be what I would consider good guys who are having a lot of issues with this conversation, specifically because they're concentrating on the idea that a bear is dangerous and that humans are not supposed to be. So I decided to call into account three particular groups of people. The first group that I'm going to talk about is people of color. Let's call it that way. If you are a man who happens to be a person of color and who's ever been afraid to get stopped by the police or get treated differently because of the color of your skin, this part of the message is for you. Because it should be very easy for you to relate to the idea that even though we're very clear that not all men are bad, much like not all policemen are bad, there is a certain level of trepidation that comes when you go out at any point in time, day or night, and you're out there on the street or you're going to a restaurant or you're going somewhere and you're either coming home or driving to the place where you're going to and a policeman stops you. If you understand that level of fear, then you understand the level of fear that women are talking about. And it shouldn't be that hard for you to relate to what a woman is going through. The second group of people that I want to talk to is men, regardless of age, race, ethnicity, religious beliefs, or political beliefs. If you were brought up in a house of abuse, it can be physical, mental, both. You could have been raised by a narcissist, a sociopath, or a psychopath. If you understand the feeling that no matter what you do is never good enough, if you have no idea what it's like, what it's going to be like when they come home tonight, if you're walking on eggshells your entire existence, then it should be very easy for you to relate to a woman fearing men in general. Why? Because the one thing that I don't see a lot of people talking about is the after effect. You see, if a bear mauls you, you're going to either be dead or injured, right? If you're injured, you are going to know exactly what triggers you. Meaning, if you got mauled by a bear in the woods, you are probably going to avoid the woods, maybe for a while, maybe forever, because you know that will bring some memories that you don't want to think about, right? The issue with women and being mistreated by a man, and keep in mind I'm keeping the language a certain way because we're on YouTube, is that we don't know what's going to trigger us when we have a situation. And I'm talking as a survivor of over 40 years of this. There are still to this day songs that I will hear and it will automatically trigger something. In fact, one of them is my husband's favorite song. And I cannot hear it because before I even met him, I had a situation and every time I hear that song, I get triggered. I don't play that song, But here's the thing, and this is where this is how I explain the idea that you can avoid triggers when it's a bear but not a man. If you're walking down the street and somebody's playing music on the radio and it's loud, how are you going to avoid that? If it's a certain smell or a certain something, a tree, a flower, whatever it is, unless you stay home and avoid all interactions with humanity, you really cannot avoid a trigger. I hope you get what I'm trying to say. If you are, the reason why I use children of abuse, is because you would know what it's like to have a whiff of a scent of something and all of a sudden it triggers you back to when you were 4 years old and your dad was beating your mom, for example. Or when you came home with 100 on a test, you were, the teachers were just glowing. Everybody was so happy for you, and you get home and the response for your parent was, well, your handwriting is shoddy. You know that? Then you understand the feeling of not knowing when a person is going to be, because the reality is you can go out with somebody for months, you can be married to somebody for years, and all of a sudden they just snap one day and they treat you like the dirt they think you are. That's what we're talking about. Now, there's one third group that I want to talk to because I was alerted about this, ironically, from TikTok. And it is the fact that the Bible, for those of you who are Christian, the Bible already answered this question. According to Proverbs 17:12, it says, better to meet a bear robbed of her cubs than a fool bent on folly. The Bible answered this for you. The Bible specifically said that a bear is easier on you than a human with an attitude problem. It is what it is. Now, there are many reasons why women think, now that I have your attention in terms of which group or category you're in, let me be very clear with you. This is what we mean by bear before man. I'm going to give you a personal example. I actually brought this to real life because I wanted to see what my friends thought about it. And the average man, my age, Generation X, their reaction was to make a joke about it. The problem with that is that you are minimizing the situation. I know you're trying to be funny because you have no idea how to answer the question or how to answer the comment or how to react to the situation. But the reality is that you're being dismissive by being funny, number one. Number two, other generations will think that you're being dismissive. I might get the joke, but they might not. It's not a good option for you to make a joke out of it. I have seen a lot of memes, a lot of jokes, a lot of comments online, and at best, you're trying to make light of a situation because you don't know how to deal with it. At worst, you're being downright dismissive of a situation that all women go through because you don't know that experience, because you don't think you can relate based on the fact that you're a man. And I'm telling you that if you've been through any of the situations that I've talked before, then you absolutely know what it feels like. If you've ever been in a classroom where the teacher was some sort of, and I've had some, egomaniac, narcissist, whatever you want to call them. And no matter what you do, they always give you a C on on all your papers. And then you check with your fellow students and you realize that you answer all the questions right, but they pick on anything. Your handwriting is not right. I couldn't understand what you wrote here or whatever. And you know damn well that they know. But they either have it out for you or they're narcissists. And they want everybody to write the same and do the same work and whatever. You know exactly what this feels like. If you've ever been in a situation where you go out on a date, or it's your wife's birthday, or it's your sister's quinceañera, and you do the best job you possibly can, whether it's getting the best outfit, the best present, whatever, and their reaction is cool at best, then you know exactly what we're talking about. And by the way, women are not innocent of this. And I'm going to tell you why women are not innocent of this. At the end of the day, whether you agree with it or not, it is your job to raise your children. Listen, I don't agree with it, but it is what it is. And if you didn't teach your sons to behave with women, be it by example, by accepting treatment from a bad man, or by letting it slide when somebody disses you or treats you wrong in a store or whatever, just because you want to keep the peace, it's time you wake up and start treating people the way they deserve to get treated. And I'm not saying you have to be violent or turn into a Karen. What I'm saying is that the best way you can teach your sons to behave with women is to model the behavior that you expect from people. Treat people like you want to be treated. If you want respect from somebody, then you need to ensure that they respect you. You know those times when the one coworker is always asking you to work their shifts and whatever, and you complain the entire day at home. Oh my God, I cannot believe Fulanita decided that she can't go to work, so I have to work for her and all that. Your kids are watching. If you go to parent-teacher conferences or you are involved in the PTA and you're always stuck with making the dessert because everybody knows you cook really well and you make incredible desserts, and you are basically complaining from the minute they give you the request until the dessert is done, your kids are watching. Whatever you do in your life, and goes for both men and women, whatever you do in life, your kids are watching and they're taking notes about the behavior. They know you don't like the behavior, but they also know that you put up with it. And guess what happens later on in life? If it's a girl, she's going to do exactly the same thing you did. And if it's a boy, he is going to assume that it's okay for him to not respect any boundaries because, you know what? She doesn't care. It didn't bother mom. Yeah, she complained a little, but at the end of the day, she did whatever she was told to do. So I guess I can do that with my partner or with my friend or with my cousin. We teach people how to treat us. And I understand that a lot of people are going to have a problem with this particular part of the message because how dare I say that? No. We need to keep ourselves accountable too. Because I can't help but notice that, especially on Twitter, women are just bashing men without actually paying attention to what they're saying. And I'm not talking about the memes where they're proving that they are not the good guy. I'm talking about people that are honestly asking, what am I supposed to do? And your answer is, well, I don't have to teach you anything. Well, if you want people to treat you with respect, you have to teach them how to do that. For my generation, there was an expression. And the reason why I'm talking about expressions now is because I want you as a man to go and ask the people around you, because I can guarantee you every single woman you know has been abused in some level somewhere in her life. For women in Generation X and generations before me, the question that you're going to ask them is, have you ever been taken advantage of by a man? That was the expression we used. If you're talking to younger generations, millennials, Zs, and alphas, what you can ask them is, has anybody stepped over your boundaries? If any man has ever stepped over your boundaries. Ask your wife, your sister, your mother, your cousins, your best friend, whoever you feel comfortable asking. If they have the same level of comfort than you do, they will answer the question. If they don't, they will either not look you in the eye and say something like, no, not really, just like I just did, or they will not look you in the eye and change the conversation. That should give you a hint that women don't feel comfortable around men because we are dismissed all the time. That should not anger you. It should make you very sad. Another thing that I've noticed, is, especially in the men that are answering this particular debate, is that they are willing to put the most horrible memes on their screens, on their profiles, just because they want other men who they don't know and might probably never meet, go ahead and, oh yeah, you got her good with that one. This reminds me in I don't know if this still happens, but it's called heckling. And when I was a young woman, actually when I was a kid, you would walk by a construction site and men would be throwing piropos at you. And women would just bow their heads and keep walking, sometimes faster. But we all took it as, it is what it is. No, it isn't. If you didn't feel comfortable as a woman with a man saying something to you, I don't expect you to stand up, because I know what happens when you stand up to a man. But the reality is that it's not cute. Ironically, and this happened to me when I was in my late 20s, I actually met and started talking to some of the men that I would walk by this particular place, and they would always be like, doing their thing. And one day I decided to start talking to the guys instead of just letting them say, and they were not nasty, they were just annoying. And what I found out in time, I actually befriended some of these guys. And what I found out is that most of the time, the reason why they would do it is because they wanted to one-up each other to get the respect of their coworkers. It wasn't so much about, they didn't think they were being offensive to the women. They just wanted to be good with their buddies. That happens a lot. It happens online and it happens offline. I don't understand why you would care about what somebody else thinks of you when you run the potential of insulting somebody that you care about just to make yourself feel good in front of the other guys. This happened in schools too. I don't know if, because again, I don't have anything to do with schools now. My daughter's in her 30s, so that time has passed. But I don't know if you remember when you were in school and you would have the line of the girls and the line of the boys. And the boys would always be saying stuff that they shouldn't have said. Sometimes offensive, sometimes very offensive. And 9 times out of 10 was because they all wanted to look cooler to the other guy. Ironically, if you actually talk to those guys, you would find out that not only did they not feel cool, the guys that were listening to it didn't think it was right either, but nobody had the balls to tell anybody else to stop. We are so interested in looking good to everybody else that we're willing to offend, insult strangers, or treat people like crap just to look good to a bunch of people that really probably don't even care about it either. But that's what we do. And so I'm giving you the homework of talking to people. Talk to women in your life and ask them if they've heard about this debate about the bear and the man. What do they think and why do they feel that way? If you are a man who is either a person of color or was raised by abusive parents or narcissistic parents, ask yourself, can I relate to the situations that women go through? Because I absolutely understand that you might not think that you have a point of reference because you don't go through the world fearing when you walk out the door that somebody might hurt you for no reason. But let me be very clear about what a bear won't do. The bear is not going to ask you on a date and then get mad at you and probably hurt you when you don't do something for them at the end of the night. A bear will not gaslight you into believing that you're the best thing since sliced bread, and then at the simplest, dumbest thing, start yelling at you for no reason, maybe even hit you for no reason. The bear is either going to see you and keep on walking or maul you because he's afraid of you. Keep that in mind. When we go to the woods, let's say a woman goes to the woods and she finds herself in front of a bear, or if you live in Florida like I do, next door. You're walking next door and a bear is in their front yard. 9 times out of 10, the bear is going to run just as fast as you are because he got scared. He doesn't want to deal with you. But there's going to be that one bear that's going to say, oh no, you're mine now. And it's going to try to hurt you. We know what to expect from an encounter with a bear. That is the main bottom line between a man and a bear. That is the part that you guys sometimes don't want to understand or don't understand. And the thing about it is, if you are a good guy, if you really are a good guy, you don't have to defend yourself because you're clear that it doesn't apply to you. And I understand that you feel offended, that you feel hurt, that a woman will feel that way. But if you ask yourself the question, would I feel safe around, insert the name of your buddy here. If you're being honest, you know that you have plenty of friends that you don't know what the reaction of women would be around them. There are guys that you hang out with when you want to fix your car or when you want to watch the ball game, but you would never, ever hang around them when women are involved. Why? Because you know they're problematic. And those are the guys we're talking about. What we're asking you to do is to be the stand-up guy. Now, there was one part of the debate that I thought was funny. I heard this from my daughter, so I haven't seen the video. But apparently, it was men thinking that the bear versus man debate was literally how to defend yourself against a bear in a situation and what kind of man would help you. And it was the most wholesome thing. She told me the story and I just could not stop laughing because it was really wholesome. That's not the guy I'm talking about, okay? I understand that there's a lot of good guys that are getting mixed up in this whole debate just because they can't understand why women wouldn't trust them, because they are actually good guys. They struggle every once in a while. They might be my age and they know that there's a difference between the way men and women treat each other now and the way we used to treat each other back then. But the reality is there's a lot of people that are getting involved in this mess and are not getting real answers because we are more interested in proving our points than we are in actually having the conversation. If you want to have the conversation, I'm here for you. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.